What's up and welcome to the video. My name is Dr. Daniel Ricciardi, gut health expert, licensed pharmacist, fitness enthusiast, and creator of SIBO Shortcut, the program that helps you eliminate small intestinal bacterial overgrowth quickly and easily. Medications and supplements are usually the first thing that most people look to for pretty much every single medical condition. Poor digestion and bloating are no different. While medications and supplements definitely have their place for this, they're not the only helpful thing that you can do. I'd argue that the 5 tips that I'm going to share for you in this video can be far more helpful than any pill in terms of preventing bloating. And if you're not doing these, you're probably putting yourself at a disadvantage. The 5 tips that we're going to cover are: tip number 1, no snacking in between meals. Tip 2, drink less liquid during meals. Tip 3, eat slowly and chew your food thoroughly. Tip number 4, don't begin taking acid blockers. And tip number 5 is avoid stressful activities during meals. All right, let's get started with tip number 1 is no snacking between meals. Snacking impairs what is known as the migrating motor complex, or MMC. The MMC is a system of muscles and nerves that propels partially digested food all the way through your small intestine. It essentially sweeps the entire small intestine completely clean every time you eat. Here's the catch though. The MMC stops sweeping when you start eating. Therefore, if you're constantly munching on crunchy snacks and other things, the MMC will not have time to do its job. This means that you'll likely have more partially digested food left over in your small intestine. This partially digested food can produce gas, which can cause bloating. From my personal experience, I found that waiting 4 hours in between meals seems to work the best for preventing bloating. Doing this is especially important for people who have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, SIBO, or a history of SIBO. And if you've been diagnosed with SIBO or think you may have it and nothing seems to be helping, check out SIBO Shortcut Plus. SIBO Shortcut Plus gives you personalized SIBO treatment from me, including diet, supplements, and testing, so you have everything you need to eliminate your digestive symptoms. Spots are now officially open for October, and like last month, we're looking for a small number of people who are committed to eliminating their bloating and digestive symptoms. Click the first link down in the description for a free SIBO webinar and more information. And now, back to the video. I'm also just against snacking in general, to be honest. You don't need small meals to keep your metabolism going. Your body's smart. It's not going to forget how to function and start storing all sorts of body fat if you don't have food every 2 hours. In fact, it probably is going to do the opposite. In addition, most snacks are just unhealthy. The majority of them are carbs, sugar, and processed foods. Most of the time, when you feel like having a snack, you're not actually hungry. Instead, you're probably bored, nervous, scared, or just craving that quick but short dopamine boost that you get from the snack food that you're craving. One of my friends says if you were hungry enough to have chicken and vegetables during your normal snack time, that is a legitimate excuse to eating in between your meal. And I would agree. Tip number 2 is to drink less liquid during meals. Have you heard the term watered down before? It's usually meant to describe something weaker or less potent than it should be. Your body releases stomach acid out into your stomach when you eat. This stomach acid is required to do some initial digestion of food from larger particles into smaller particles. It also helps with the absorption of certain nutrients and vitamins such as vitamin B12, magnesium, zinc, and iron. Stomach acid by itself is extremely acidic with a pH of around 2. This is almost as strong as battery acid. However, if you drink liquid during your meals, you're diluting stomach acid. Obviously, it's not possible to avoid all liquid during meals because you want to have something to cleanse your palate and rinse the food down. However, just keep in mind the more liquid you drink, the more you dilute stomach acid. And when stomach acid is more dilute, it takes longer to digest food. Therefore, food sits in your stomach longer and can become maldigested. This can produce gas, and when there's gas, it can cause bloating. Tip number 3 is to eat slowly and chew thoroughly. Eating slowly and chewing thoroughly go hand in hand. Eating slowly makes it less likely that you will overeat. Have you ever seen a food eating competition on TV? I've definitely seen them before, and to be honest, they're kind of exciting, but it's probably the worst thing you can possibly do for your digestion. Normally, these competitions are timed, and contestants will try to eat as quickly as possible. They do this not only because they're racing against the clock and their other competitors, but they're also racing against their hormones, in particular a hormone called cholecystokinin. This hormone is released by your small intestine when your body feels that it has consumed enough food. For this hormone to be released and for the signal to reach your brain, this process usually takes about 20 to 25 minutes. This is why if you eat quickly, you can eat more food than you normally would otherwise because your brain doesn't realize that you're full yet. And if you overeat, your stomach acid can't churn and mix with all the food in your stomach. Therefore, it'll sit there longer. As I mentioned before, the longer it sits there, the more likely it is to produce gas and cause bloating. And the second part to this tip number 3 is chewing. Chewing thoroughly helps you eat slowly because chewing takes time. If you chew your food 30 chews per bite or until it is the consistency of applesauce or jelly, it will be more difficult to overeat. This is because cholecystokinin will have more time to reach your brain even though you haven't eaten as much food. Chewing your food thoroughly also means that the food particles that enter your stomach are much smaller. Therefore, it's less work for your body, specifically your stomach and your intestine, to continue digesting that food. Therefore, the food is likely to pass through the stomach quicker, causing less gas to be produced, causing less bloating. Tip number 4 is don't begin taking acid blockers. I hope you're beginning to understand by now that stomach acid is very important for digestion and preventing bloating, and acid blocking medications obviously reduce stomach acid. Some of these include proton pump inhibitors, aka PPIs. Some examples include Prilosec, Nexium, and Prevacid. There's H2 receptor blockers, which includes Zantac and Pepcid, and antacid medications such as Tums and Gaviscon. Medications such as Prilosec were initially developed to help people cure and heal ulcers. However, unfortunately, they're now being used to treat heartburn and other conditions, and people are taking them for years and years. While they may help somewhat with heartburn symptoms, they can actually cause additional problems down the road, including additional heartburn. This is because lowering of stomach acid impairs digestion, and as described before, if food isn't digested as well, it sits in the stomach and intestine longer and produces more gas, which can make heartburn worse. This can make heartburn worse because if there's more gas, there's more upwards pressure on the lower esophageal sphincter, which separates the stomach from the esophagus. If this LES gets forced open, it's easier for the contents of the stomach to come up into the esophagus and cause more symptoms. As a disclaimer, if you currently take acid blocking medications, it's not always possible to wean off them safely, and I'd always recommend talking to a doctor or your healthcare practitioner before attempting to do so. However, if you don't already take an acid blocking medication and you are considering starting one, I'd urge you to explore all the other options first and try to avoid using these products if you are able to do so. And last but not least, tip number 5 is avoid stressful activities during meals. This last tip is probably the most important one. Your body has 2 modes that it can be in. They are sympathetic, aka fight or flight mode. For example, how you feel when you're watching a scary movie, or at least how I feel when I'm watching a scary movie, or parasympathetic, aka rest and digest. For example, sitting on a beach, having a drink on vacation. When you're eating, you want to be in that parasympathetic, sitting on the beach with a drink mode. If you're in that sympathetic fight or flight, watching a scary movie mode, your body is on high alert. Therefore, your body will put all of its energy toward your brain and muscles so you're able to think quickly and you're able to move your way out of any dangerous situation. The very last thing your body is concerned with if you're in this sympathetic mode is for you to digest food. Therefore, your body's probably not going to be releasing as many digestive enzymes, bile, or stomach acid that you need to properly digest food. Fewer digestive secretions means worse digestion and more bloating. I previously dealt with bad bloating from small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, aka SIBO, for 7 to 8 years in my 20s. Now I use all 5 of these tips that I just outlined on a daily basis to help prevent bloating and feel my best. Tip number 5 is especially powerful, and I've noticed that if I don't do this one, this is when I'm most likely to experience bloating after eating. To review, the 5 tips are: number 1, no snacking in between meals. Number 2, drink less liquid in between meals. Number 3, eat slowly and chew food thoroughly. Number 4, don't begin taking acid blocking medications. And number 5, avoid stressful activities during meals. If you're doing the opposite of these 5 tips, that means you are snacking constantly throughout the day, drinking a lot of liquid during meals, eating as fast as you can, taking acid blocking medications regularly, and working through lunch, dinner, and doing as many stressful activities as possible while you're eating. If this is the case, you're basically doing the maximum bloating eating regimen. If you're doing all these things, you shouldn't be wondering why your digestion is not good and why you feel bloated. Even if you took digestive medications and supplements, it's really difficult to out-medicate and out-supplement bad eating habits. That is all for today. I hope you enjoyed the video or found it helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe to my channel. It helps me keep making more videos like this one for you. And if you're new to my channel, I post a new full-length video every Monday evening and YouTube shorts throughout the week. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.